Welcome back to Let's Play Kerbal Space Program Beta with me, Greatester, and I lost my save game. Unfortunately, it was bad. It was terrible. I have no idea where it went. I had my one from the end of episode 2, but not from episode 3. So, well, this is episode 4, and I've tried to reconstruct it as best I can. So, roughly we're in the same situation, I think. And we're going to get on with a few things from here, including me correcting a mistake I made. I assumed that these contracts, the top right, were that you had to test it in flight and then just land. They're not. They mean fire that thing while you landed. So we can do that quite quickly and simply. Yeah, we don't have to do anything special for that. But first of all, I think I want to take a look at the science that I want to actually get to. I do eventually want this unmanned probe. I don't really care about the rest because it's mostly spaceplane stuff or plane stuff. But that unmanned capsule is quite important. But without the solar panels, I'm largely there's no point having this without the solar panels. So at least getting electrics first is important. But I only have 41 science. Those are just lights. That's another type of battery pack. And all the stuff on this row, if you like, vertically is 90 science. So I could also look for radial engines, liquid engines that is. But we kind of want to head towards at least the electrics and the unmanned stuff because of the missions. I tried a suicidal approach last episode by creating a rocket specifically just to fly over a section of Kerbal, Kerbin. They should just call this Earth. It'd be so much easier. Although Earth's gravity is a lot harder to escape from. Yeah, that would be much bigger rockets. Anyway, yeah, I flew a suicidal mission to get this one, or semi-suicidal. I did actually manage to do it. After reverting once, unfortunately. But if I launched an unmanned probe or unmanned satellite, I could just wait for them to actually get over these regions, just watching the tracking station until it gets over the regions. I can't do it in equatorial orbits, but I can in polar orbits because, if you like, Kerbal is Kerbin. Good God. Kerbin is rotating underneath the actual polar orbit, so eventually you're going to get over the right region. But to get there, we've got to get a lot more science, and we do, I think, already have one of the experiments that we want to use, which is this Science Junior. Not too concerned about the comms dish. The rechargeable battery pack's okay if you had the comms dish in there, and it's okay maybe for other things, but certainly the Science Junior. So, first of all, we want to be able to go EVA. Except, well, right now we can only go EVA on the ground. So, and we only have a limit of 5 Kerbals. Called Kerman. Wow, this is hard to keep straight in your head. So I'm going to upgrade you. I've got 165,000 Kerbal dollars, or whatever they want to call them, credits. And we're going to upgrade that. So that's gone up to the next grade, and I could probably recruit a little more. But if I spread out the existing people, I want to perhaps add more experience to Adam and Bill and Bob. Only problem with going with the non-pilots is they can't use the stability system, which I'm terrible at trying to fly the things without the stability system. So first of all, let's look at just exit for a second. I have saved you. Let's just go to new. Just something I was working on. That was advanced preview, if you like. Let me just look to see if there are any other contracts that I can actually do right away. No, I don't think there is. At least not until I get rid of this one. I could just get rid of it because it's a tiny amount, but I may as well show you how to do these landed missions because I misinterpreted it last time. So let's get a quick, I say ship built, but let's get a quick something built. It's going to be pretty terrible, but it's okay. We want this because that's the thing we have to test while it's landed, and we want Science Junior. that's probably about it. Oh no, let's put some landing struts on it. If I go into the triple up mode, it should be fairly stable. Hopefully that's going to let those louvers open. A bit worried about that one. What I could do, let's just take those off for a second. Let's just put an actual fuel tank in, because we're not going to actually use up this fuel tank. Yeah, you'll do. Attach these to sides of this and start them with them deployed. Put you under here, and we've got the makings of a tiny, tiny, tiny ship, which really won't go anywhere. But we'll recover all of its parts and then get all the money back. That's the major point about this. There's not really any stages to deploy apart from the engine, so throttle all the way down. So what are we going to do? Well, first of all, we're going to observe the materials bay. So we're going to get some information, 7.5 science from the launch pad. Let's keep that. Have I already done an EVA here? Let's see. EVA report. Yeah, I have. I could get one from the launch pad itself. I could go and get a little bit more from another area of the base. But first I need to actually test this thing. So all we need to test it is just deploy the engine. And that's the contract complete. I haven't even throttled up. All I had to do was actually start it up. And if you wanted to, you could, you know, just eke this out a little bit. Oh, and that's Windows telling me sticky keys again. Nothing really happens because it doesn't really have enough thrust to escape. I mean, if you throttled up, you probably would lift off a little bit, and then you'd have to use some fuel to get back down. So not too much of a problem. And that's that. So if I EVA, let's go. Oh, come on. Let's go down here. I actually saw this tip on a Scott Manley video. So if you get to see his channel, he's got some good tips for it. So yeah, I'll happily take this tip, which is running down here, and go and get another EVA report, or one I can keep. From, if you see just down there where those two tracks are, that's the crawlerway. You've probably seen NASA space shuttles being moved by these huge vehicles. That's a longer crawlerway generally. Of course, we don't really need it for. We could probably just lift our vehicle into place with a couple of guys and I don't know, crate of beers afterwards. But yeah, we're just gonna head down there. And this is the astronaut running. Believe it or not, that's walking. This might take, you know, another 30 seconds or so, but that's fine. So we've got some information from the launch pad from our Science Junior. We can grab another EVA report from here, and then we can go and do the same thing on the runway if we want to. It's 7.5 science per biome for that Science Junior, so that's 15 science without ever lifting off, so that's pretty good. Just get you in here, and let's just grab an EVA report, and I can plant a flag, but I really don't need to plant a flag, so let's recover. Now we should be able to see our vessel. Yeah, there it is. Still on the launch pad, which we can recover and get all the science from. And the funds. You see my funds haven't really changed all that much. So we can go and do the same thing in the spaceplane hangar. I wish I knew an easy way to rotate this. There is the rotation thing up here, but it's not terribly good. We want the Science Junior. Doesn't even correspond to the usual 3D modeling tools where you can hold down and shift to lock it into certain orientations, which is somewhat annoying. But importantly here, we don't really need to add much else because we don't need to take off or anything or have those legs or anything. It's largely just a static, straightforward. But I will get a change to the crew. Let's get rid of you, and let's, because they don't need to fly anything, let's just give some XP to Bill. And yeah, launch, I think. I probably should have put some goo on there. Yeah, Yeah, let's just revert that for a second to the launch, the hangar even, and put some goo cans on there. All the science we can possibly do. Don't need two, just one would do fine, but it's a crazy vehicle. Hey guys, I can be a rocket too. Here we go. So we can just observe the mystery goo. And yeah, 3 science. We can observe the materials bay and the 7.5 science and get a crew report and get another 1.5 science. Then we can go EVA. Then I can take the data, store everything. We can EVA reports. Oh yeah, that's flying, so I actually need to get off. So let's just get off. Come on, Bill. This way. EVA report, and I get another 2.5 science, and it's unlikely that I'll be able to get back on. But I can turn on my RCS to try and use the tiny thrust that it has to jump. In fact, that's just wobbling as it is. Jump. Nope. Take another run up. There we go. R is turning on your reaction control system. So we can board, and that's pretty much it, I think. Of the vessel. And we get ourselves another 15 science, well 14.4, but I'll take it. So what does that get us? Does that get enough for us to get anything else? Well, that's 70. I'm still going to need 90, which means we're going to need to do something else. Just getting stuff from our shuttle, well, not shuttle, but from our home base isn't going to cut it. So we're going to have to go somewhere. But we do have that new science bay that's 7.5 science every time we go up there. Now, if we can get into orbit, and that's where I was just using the Orbiter 2. In fact, let me go with Orbiter 1 because I know that works. If we use this and get rid of these, we know this can get into orbit, but what we probably want to do is actually something like this. So as we re-enter, everything's going to be lost, including the science bay. Well, that's okay if we manage to actually get the stuff out of it before we re-enter the atmosphere, which means going EVA in space, which is why I upgraded the astronaut complex. Going EVA in space, however, is pretty nerve-wracking. If you're in orbit, it's a lot easier. So we don't want to just do it on a ballistic trajectory. Trust me, you will float away in space and die. But you'll, I don't know, enjoy it, maybe? So let's get started with this. And of course, I've forgot a couple of other quick things. First of all, the crew. I want Adam to actually get the experience. And I can probably forget these for a second, well, forget those entirely. And if I put a structural, yeah, if I put a girder segment under here, I can use the same amount of parts that I would be using up to host some battery power. There we are. There's 2, unfortunately. I don't think I have room for more. There we go. So let's just check the staging. Bottom 2 are going to fire. As soon as they separate, also going to fire the bottom stage, then separate, then in fact we can merge those. So the separator and the engine are going to fire at the same time. Then the separator and the next engine, well, we can merge those two. Then the final stage firing, we can merge those. then that's for recovery when we're actually coming back. So get rid of that. Now, do we have any contracts we can take? I think I think there's a contract available to test the solid fuel boosters. Hopefully there is. Be nice to get some money for it. Yeah, there we go. They're Rocker Max BACC solid fuel boosters. We don't have very much for it, unfortunately, but we can take it. And then there's visual surveys, again, the one I want to do by unmanned stuff. And those are on the surface, so I think that's more for plane stuff for me. That's certainly not something I want to do right now. Nope, none of the others, unfortunately. But this is going to be primarily a science mission, so let's see how well this goes. Let me just save that. There's the Orbiter 1. Unfortunately, this is going to cost 14,000, but I should get lots of science from it. Let's head out to the launch pad. Oh, that wobbled a little bit there. It's still wobbling because the height of the thing, probably. And I don't have any struts holding things together other than the actual height. But it's stabilized. Yeah, there's no problems. And we're going to head straight up, probably. So let's turn on the stability system, and away we go. And there's our contract complete. We've got an extra 6 science and some $300. Nothing very major. So we don't really have any constraints on us right now other than our fuel and what we want to do, which is largely that science junior. And of course these solid fuel boosters, well, I can't really control them, so I don't really want to touch the controls too much until they run out. Which is coming up any second. Here they go. And we fire the separators at the same time as the next stage. Those are going to fall back. Now, if I had a higher part limit, I'd probably put parachutes on them to stop them from just like hitting the ground. In fact, that's probably destructive to my base. If they fall and hit the buildings. Now you perhaps know why the launch pad is so far away from the base. From the base in real missions. You don't want stuff falling back to Earth on top of the heads of your colleagues. Okay, so we're now 14,000 meters up and we're still on our solid fuel. But we're out of the lower atmosphere. And yes, this is a wasteful way to do this. If we did this with purely liquid fuel rockets, we could probably throttle back until we get out of the lower atmosphere around about now, and then start throttling up. But yeah, this is more challenging for us to my wallet, put it that way. So let's keep going. And there goes that stage. Now we're on liquid fuel. We can probably start to tilt ourselves over a little bit. I'd head for orbit. Let's take a look at where we are on the map. And bring up our nav ball. And height of about 80 will be fine. We've now switched to the orbit instead of the surface. Velocity vectors, if you like. That's fine. And let's throttle up. That's now rapidly increasing, and my fuel's, yeah, it's pretty good. It's not too bad. Let's see what it is in that stage. Well above half. We're doing fine because the apoapsis is going pretty much into orbit around about now. Well, the orbital height around about now. And let's shut down the engines. 76. So if we time accelerate, let's just reorient things a little bit. Just so we're going to be going sideways more than 45 degrees or 50 degrees or so. Perfectly on the line, and let's accelerate. And hopefully, we're going to do this quite efficiently. Depends how much thrust I apply, but there's the music, we're out of the atmosphere. And I'm going to throttle up. So that should quite rapidly now. Because we're still on this second stage, we're not on that little LV909. We're still on the main liquid fuel stage. Excuse me. And this should get us pretty much how we had a fuel. We're about to run out of fuel. There we go, we're out of fuel. Just get rid of that stage, and we can fire the next one. Well, the orbital stage, if you like. It is growing, but it is a tiny, tiny rocket, so, well, tiny, tiny fuel tank. Passing apoapsis. This is where I'd really love to have those maneuver nodes, because you can get it timed just perfectly. Right now, you're just eyeballing it. And eyeballing orbitals, not something... Well, I suppose Apollo 13 did it in terms of braking, but yeah, not something I particularly want to do for too much longer. Here comes our orbits. Any time now. And we flip and shut down. 76 and near enough 100 on the other side. That's not too bad. So now let's get out of our orbit map view and let's look at our little craft. So we're in orbit, we should be fairly stable here, and you probably can't see a thing. So let's just accelerate a little bit. More than a little bit. There we go. Maybe accelerate a little bit more. Okay, so what do we want to do? Well, first of all, I want to reorient things so that we're vertical-ish. We're rocking backwards and forwards a little bit. Hopefully that's going to be stable. The main problem is as soon as I get out, that stability system was going to turn off. So if I turn that off now, first thing we're going to do is just observe the materials bay. In space, near Kerbal. 25 science, yes, please. But we should be able to reuse that, I think. Yeah, if we reset it, we'll lose it. So if I, let's just actually use one of the goos, just because, yeah, it's a tiny amount of science. We go EVA and hope. Go. See, I'm not really touching, and it's rotating slightly. But I can turn on the RCS system by pressing R, and then I should be able to, with tiny, tiny movements, pressing Control to go down and Shift to go up. Or stop myself, case may be. I should then be able to collect the data. Oh, is that inoperable? That's a shame. As you can see, the things are rotating a little bit as well. I was hoping I'd be able to reset it. No, I can't right click on it anymore. That's annoying. And go forward, press W. And really tiny movements. There we go. So we can store the experiments. And I could probably get an EVA report. Another 8 science. That's above the grasslands. So I can just sit here and store the experiments. Let's board for a second. Let's just The experiments. Am I touching? Should be. There we go. If I reorient things again. Every time I pass over a biome underneath me, I'm able to get a crew report, which should get me more science. But it is a tad. Sorry, an EVA report, I think. Yeah, that's just in space. So if I get back out an EVA. Grab on. Am I above mountains? Yeah, let's have a look. Highlands, yeah, that's another 8 science. I continue to do this. Now, I'm not going to do this on camera because it'd be incredibly boring, but let's just assume for the moment that I'm going to EVA report my way around the globe. And if I look at the map, in fact, let's just get back in just because this is bad precarious. I'm on an equatorial orbit, so I should be able to get everything that's actually on the equator, but because I'm not in a polar orbit with the actual the planet rotating underneath, which is why one of the reasons why I want the unmanned thing, because unmanned things don't die, or they lose power but they don't die. I should be able to get all these biomes, but really I want a network of at least polar satellites. And it'd be nice if there was multiple of them, just so that I can get to any one of them at any particular point in time. So I'll continue to collect some things off camera, pick up all the EVA data, and I'll come back when I'm done. So here we are on the dark side of the planet, so excuse the lack of light. Let's just solve that by getting around the other side of the planet. Here it comes. There we go. And I've now picked up EVA reports from deserts, from ocean, from grasslands, highlands, and I think one other. How many experiments have I got stored? Whoops, not the decoupler. I've got 5, so 4 plus the Science Junior. So we've got all our EVA reports. Time to head home, or at least back down to the surface. So let's turn our stability control back on, and let's flip us remotely something like retrograde. There we are. And all we need to do is do burn now. So let's flip into our orbit view, and we're midway between 2 of them, but that doesn't matter too much. Landing anywhere will be fine. Land at the space center, that would be cool, but I think I've just passed it. Yeah, I think it's right there. It's annoying. Well, we could wait for us to come around a little bit more. Should have enough supplies. Here's our apoapsis coming up, and I wonder if I can... I need to come in maybe about, I don't know, about 50 kilometers around here, so let's see, I'm going to have to reorient myself again, so let's just... Easiest way to do that. Was it direction of travel? Back out to the map. And my game crashed. So, yeah, I had to refly that all over again. And yeah, I'm still trying to land somewhere around the Space Center. I'm at Periapsis, and let's see if I can burn my way down quickly. I want to end up, you know, somewhere towards the ocean around here, because the atmosphere is going to catch me and bring this down even further. So maybe about there. Let's see how that actually goes. We're at 63. And we're going to be coming down. So let's accelerate a little bit. I'm just oscillating because I'm in the accelerated mode, so it's not too great to do maneuvers when you're that. But you know, we'll see. 50,000 now. The atmosphere should start to catch us and start bringing us down pretty rapidly. So what I'm going to do is just temporarily not roll that way. Sorry, roll. Roll us down, well, up if you like. Get rid of that stage. Say goodbye to all those science experiments. I really would like parachutes on that stuff, but what can you do? Get more power count maybe, or maybe load less stuff on the ship. But yeah, well, for now, let's just accelerate a little bit more. You look down there, there is the Space Center. So 35,000 meters, I'm probably going to go past it quite a bit, but it's still, hopefully it'll be okay. We'll see. We're about to hit the upper atmosphere, so, or the middle atmosphere, whatever you want to call it, that blue region. It should start catching us and bringing us down. There we go, there's the re-entry flames. And we can speed up a little bit. Yeah, we're going to fly past the base quite a bit. But we're at 13,000 meters and we're out of the re-entry zone. Deploy the parachute and accelerate, but remember to reduce the acceleration before you get to the ground, because otherwise you will crash, even with the parachute up. So just bring that down to about 1,000 maybe. Step back. 1,000. And to normal. There we go. And now we're going to float down. So we can probably accelerate a little bit. Unfortunately, the Space Center's over the horizon, so I'm not going to get a bonus there, I don't think. And splashdown should happen soon. Judge it by looking at side on. There we go. And we can recover the vessel. That's given us 72 science in one mission. I consider that a success. 148 science, and how much you need? 140 odd? That's pretty close. Parts value, we've lost a fair amount. It cost us like 14,000. We've got 2.5 back. Not so great, to be honest. But Adam Kerman's got a bit of XP as well. So do we now have the stuff we need? 148. So this one is 45, and this one is 90. So yeah, we have enough for both of them, which, let me just check the missions first. Make sure, in fact, if we can recover for a bit more cash. Those are our initial stages. And do we actually have anything? A tracking station. Nope, that other stage was completely destroyed. I had no parachute on it, and it was coming in at some amazing rate of speed. Let's have a look in the science. Sorry, not science. Missions, contracts, visual surveys, small gear bay. No visual surveys. No, nothing special in there. So let's have a look. We want to take the flight control, and we want to take electrics. And from there, that's a good point to end the episode on. We've got 13 science left, but more importantly, we've got the ability to send an unmanned, rechargeable with photovoltaic panels rocket up there. And let's see if we can get the thing into polar orbit next time. So that's episode 4. Episode 5 will be probably polar orbits, or more importantly, I had to cheese those. Well, I was sure that cheese. It's not really cheesing them when you're doing them properly, I suppose. But some kind of survey vessel that we can leave up there in a somewhat stable orbit that we don't have to worry about. So it might have to be a bit higher than normal just to make sure it doesn't degrade. But other than that, yeah, let's just see what we can do. But for now, this is Greatest signing off. Thank you for watching, and next time we'll see you then. Please feel free to leave a comment, a like, or subscribe if you want to see more of these videos. Thanks for watching.